Hello everybody and welcome to another Beyond All Reason video. It is me, Requiem, again, bringing you a lovely 1v1 match. Now we have Darth Revan here in blue and his opponent, PurpleHeart. PurpleHeart back again, trying to strike up against the king of 1v1s, Darth Revan, otherwise known as Xfactorlive. Xfactor with a marvelous OS score of 69. And again on Hades Ponds, the 1v1 scene seems to really be loving this map at the moment. And from the last game we saw on this map, you know why, because there is just so much metal available. And it means that you end up with a tremendous game that normally goes a bit later than average. So we see here this map primarily designed again for teams, with this being 2 start positions, these being another 2, and this and this up here being another 3. But players deciding to play in a 1v1 sense. This does mean that being on a 1v1, there is a lot of opportunity for raiding and harassing of metal extractors. And yeah, so we'll see what the players decide to do here in the early stage. We have Xfactor going Armada, and last time what we saw was that from this position, I can't remember if it was Blow Deer on this side, but they basically moved down here with their comm, moved down this way, and then built some LLTs here to defend. I think he was actually here when he started that. Whereas PurpleHeart doesn't need to do quite so much here. He could move to here, build an LLT with his commander, and that would be pretty good, but would probably prefer the build pattern in his base. And as the first tick arrives, the first grunt comes out in time to stop any harass on that constructor. Now there is obviously a big open hole here, and PurpleHeart is prioritizing that radar here to detect incoming ticks. And a very well-positioned grunt there manages to stop that tick getting that metal extractor, but with 2 more left, PurpleHeart already trying to predict their movements and moving it over here to protect that constructor. Sending 1 grunt per constructor now to defend, as well as trying to get a bit of pressure himself with sending 3 grunts forward. Let's just see if these ticks do manage to get by. Some good micro here from Xfactor, splitting up the ticks. The self-destruct of the metal extractor does manage to catch that other tick out, and now this grunt will, well, I was about to say will be able to grab that tick, but the tick does manage to get away, and another one is on its way down here from the north. PurpleHeart's comm in a position where he might be able to move to defend it, but there is a single grunt there. PurpleHeart not moving his commander, instead relying on the grunts, and the commander manages to get it in the center. On the opposite side, this grunt manages to take out 2 ticks here. What happened to the other grunt? Over there, it got killed and then resurrected. As this one may be about to have happened to him. And we see getting destroyed pretty quickly there by ticks. So it only lasts so long though if PurpleHeart is able to outscale him with the grunts to tick ratio, then it's going to work out quite well. But Xfactor scaling with 2 constructors here, being his expansion constructors, still keeping the common base, with another 2 moving further forward north. Meanwhile, PurpleHeart has 2 separate ones moving south and 1 individual moving towards the center. PurpleHeart not expanding to the north yet whatsoever, which I think might be a substantial mistake seeing as how much room there is. But PurpleHeart's plan may be to try and get a good pressure on here and actually contain PurpleHeart from going up there. Sorry, contain Xfactor from going up there whatsoever, meaning that he has time to expand there as much as he wants. I don't think that'll work out though, really, but you know. So far it is, but that's just due to Xfactor choosing to only go ticks. Oh, did he see that LLT? He did. he sees that LLT as well, forcing him back. He's not going to be able to get much raiding done here, but he will contain X Factor, at least for now. Meanwhile, a single grunt may be able to catch this if he sees it. But his attention is elsewhere. He did see it, but good. He manages to spot the res bot and will try and take out the res bot. These guys will try and catch that constructor. Still no changeover to anything else but ticks from X Factor here. And the ticks do tremendous work. Definitely not enough grunts. And now that entire army is up in smoke. An armed metal extractor will maybe put a bit slow down on these ticks as they rush through. Yeah, did its job. Rush to get LLTs built, but PurpleHeart doesn't have the energy right now. Ticks do escape in time. There's so many LLTs around here have been built that it's pretty impossible for PurpleHeart to really make a dent. Xfactor has been definitely going for a bit more of a turtle tactics these days. Just massively porking up and just letting his opponent wash into his defenses. Now, there's not that much in the way of reclaim currently on that front line. But, you know, just over 150k. Meanwhile, metal a second is advantageous to X Factor currently. You got to remember that the amount of metal that X Factor has spent here on his units is significantly lower than what PurpleHeart is spending on all these grunts, which are just getting absolutely annihilated in such small numbers. And because of that, he is able to invest more in his economy, or at least that should be the case. With 5 con turrets currently, he has got a decent quantity of solars here, 16 solars at a metal cost of 2,480, with that going up and up. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, we can see that, yeah, 2,400 has been invested into solars here as well. Now, one advantage of having the comm in base here was PurpleHeart would have been able to build tidals here. And a transition over to vehicles does leave that option available with the Muskrat. Whereas X Factor wasn't really going to be doing that here. And now a complete reclaim of the bot lab here to go into gunships for X Factor. Thinks he's got enough ticks and enough LLTs here to kind of stop PurpleHeart pushing out. As we see, there's a huge bunch of ticks down there and a single grunt. Only 500 metals worth, and when we just select the ticks, you see 483's metal worth of ticks. When we look at these opponent now, how many grunts are there already? 800. So there's so much more metals worth of units already there. PurpleHeart tries to sneak around the back. And there is some stuff there. Question is, does he end up spotting these gunships in time to make any impact? Well, the ticks get tremendous flanking damage, but it's not enough. And bear in mind, he has no more land units, and the gunships have to make their move now. Do they know where the commander is? No, they don't, and that is what these scouts are off to find out. As this is enough gunships to insta-pop a command, not insta-pop, but kill a commander very, very quickly. Now he's thinking the commander's going to be in base, but it turns out it isn't. And now X Factor has basically split them up, try and just do as much damage as possible while the other scouts make their way out. And these will do a decent job at basically finding the commander and just taking out those expansion mexes. But X-Factor's commander is in somewhat peril. There's enough incisors here that we're going to break through the line, although there's just not enough to make that big an impact. It looks like they have maybe found the commander, but has he seen it? No, not yet. But just look at how much expansion has been taken out here. Quite a lot of metal extractors, and they're just going more and more down as time goes on. PurpleHeart has no reaction to this. He's pumping out some lashers and some AA from his bot lab, but with no fighters of his own, these are just going to make more and more damage. He has kind of countered this though, PurpleHeart, along the bottom here to try and get some more damage, but he keeps running into LLTs and such. He's just going to continuously lose forces before they're able to actually do anything. And now with the vehicle lab up so close to base, this really won't be able to get too much done as there's LLTs in base as well, and the con turrets will just eat everything up. So only getting 2 metal extractors there for that big push. And how many mexes did he lose in total from that air fight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 metal extractors lost from those gunships. Those gunships did a tremendous amount of work. And there's actually still some gunships left at the top. Now, this push of ballistas here does actually manage to find some value, killing 3 solars. I say value, not the most value. It does manage to get an exploiter as well. And saying that, it did kind of carve a path through here, but still, at least X-Factor had some follow-up on that gunship play. It wouldn't surprise me if we see a complete reclaim of the factory from X-Factor here in an attempt to force his opponent to overinvest in AA. At least we've seen a move up from ticks. Now we've just got only blitzes instead. X-Factor's really struggling on energy at the moment though. With wind down at 2, it doesn't leave much energy to be had. Neither player going for any titles yet at all. Resbots are out for PurpleHeart in an attempt to try and resurrect some of this. That may save him some time. Gunships attempted again to try and pick up some stuff. We'll get a constructor there, but PurpleHeart's commander is pretty safe here now, surrounded by several AA turrets, and the fighters now making their way across. Resbots will help, although I don't know if he could have done more with the metal than with the units right now. Currently, all army numbers are red. The economy is red, with the exception of metal produced is only slightly advantage X-Factor. But X-Factor did apparently lose 2 construction bots down here. Self-destruct of the LLT does not go off in time, and this force continues pushing. Now, it has been surrounded from behind here, so he doesn't really have a retreat. Self-destruct again does not manage to go off in time, and PurpleHeart continues pushing into more and more LLTs. And I will look at what Slick Light Vic posted in just a second, as these guys end up getting surrounded here, no longer microed. And those are going to just get wiped out now. Now, what did he ping? Oh, I think he trapped his units in. Hence why he had to reclaim some solars there in order to let his units out. These guys are just sat right next to the base, which makes me think that might have been the case. Meanwhile, PurpleHeart with a second factory up the north. Now, the problem with a map this size is you do run into issues with micro. There's so much going on. Obviously, being an AVA map, it's intended for, you know, multiple people to be controlling the map. But with a 1v1, just look at how much they have to control. So you've got fights going on at the bottom. You've got another raid taking place along the top. There is enough LLTs here to cause a substantial amount of attrition on PurpleHeart's units. Another raid trying to take place here, but this will get mopped up in seconds. Now, PurpleHeart going for a second factory might not be a bad call at the top, because he can then focus the units at top to harass up top, focus the units at the bottom to harass the bottom. The only downside to that is that he will have units split more across the map rather than focused in one location, which is what Xfactor is intending. Now, using air cons here to quickly recap mechs is a tremendous idea if he does not get intercepted by any of the aircraft of PurpleHeart. And Xfactor did just lose about 6 air constructors there to this one lasher, and that is a big loss. But just look how much reclaim is down here at the moment. 3.6k metal, and PurpleHeart surprisingly not prioritizing that at the moment, kind of letting Xfactor have control of it, as Xfactor's comm just slowly works his way down, building NLTs with the intention of just cutting off PurpleHeart from this reclaim. Now, both players are struggling with energy here as we select PurpleHeart. Energy is pretty low. Xfactor, again, the same here. Not really working out too well for either player, their energies. And we're seeing this extended raiding period right now just purely due to the speed of these units and getting around the map quick enough. PurpleHeart, see here, not really microing these units at all, and because of that, they will just get surrounded and killed. A changeover to brutes, though, from PurpleHeart, and surprisingly chucking in a pounder. Now, pounders are obviously great tanks, but they are so slow. And on a map this big, it is quite abnormal. Now, still a lot of metal left down here. Air cons are getting attacked. Now, Xfactor's comm is moving further and further down here in an attempt to grab some of this metal. When we look at army value just down here, we've got 3,850 metal to 4,100. Now, they're all very similar units here, and the res bots get caught out here, and all of the res bots do get killed, leaving more and more metal there for Xfactor. Now, with PurpleHeart only having this one res bot here and the 2 cons, it's pretty safe to say that this is probably going to go to Xfactor. Now, PurpleHeart has done a tremendous job here at actually controlling well over half the map, especially at the top. There's not much in the way of defense there. There is a decent amount of units, but there are 7 brutes there. And the fighters are slowly taking out these air cons that it gets spotted around. Xfactor tries to push in there, but PurpleHeart did a good job at kind of separating his troops out here, kind of staggering them somewhat. Twin guards going up are also going to make it harder for Xfactor to push into. All the forces that Xfactor had in the kind of middle section have now been brought down to the bottom, with Stouts and Janices now also coming out. Now, neither player transitioned into Tech 2 at this stage. With this much metal, both players doubling down on Tech 1. We did see a reclaim of a factory here, which may mean PurpleHeart may plan on going Tech 2. It wouldn't have surprised me if Xfactor was thinking of going Tech 2 with the amount of metal that he now has in his bank. And there we actually see it. The Tech 2 factory has been placed, using all of that reclaim from the front line in an attempt to supplement that and keep it going. Now, PurpleHeart is trying to get some of this himself, but with just one con here, he kind of could do with Resbots, but Resbots are actually moving up to the north instead to try and assist this force and this force here. Now, how much is actually there? We see 1.1k there and 900 there. A combined attack at the same time here of the middle and the bottom. PurpleHeart doing a good job here at pushing through all of the defenses. But this force here of Xfactor is moving down to flank the attacking force of PurpleHeart. And the middle force has not followed those units down. So this now force down here will get completely surrounded and executed. Question is how much damage are they going to be able to inflict before that happens? Leaving more and more reclaim along that bottom line. 3.6 and 2.5 in the center. Xfactor's calm though. Getting some great D-guns off, killing multiple tanks in a single shot. And that will be the end of that attacking force. But along the top, just pressure being applied very, very strongly here by PurpleHeart. Although there is some micro that's yet to kind of be seen here by PurpleHeart, he is just kind of throwing units at the problem. And it is working out for him. Definitely disrupting the metal income of Xfactor. And you can see that by just looking at the metal a second difference. PurpleHeart has increased his metal lead now on Xfactor to 2,000 metal. And with that, we see PurpleHeart here going Tech 2. Now, interestingly enough, he has eaten his Resbot factory to try and get the metal to sustain that. Now, he does have some Resbots, and there is a lot there, but this Tech 2 push or Tech 2 transition obviously left Xfactor with very, very little units. And the continuous pressure has caused him problems now as PurpleHeart pushes in from the top and from the side. Bulls are coming out in an attempt to try and stop this. The LLT defenses will do what they can to try and help, but this is just aggression on every single side. Now, I don't think these rocket bots are going to get too much here, but this push may be significant enough to push in. And this is the big problem here. Xfactor may not have noticed it, but this force just walks straight into the commander. And Xfactor loses. PurpleHeart definitely under OS in that fight, but manages to beat the current #1 Xfactor, otherwise known as Darth Revan here. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to do all those YouTube shenanigans. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And I'll see you all next time.